Again, our text is going to be coming from Mark 5, verses 22 through 23. And it reads, "And behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name. And when he saw him," talking about when Jairus saw Jesus, "he fell at his feet and besought him greatly, saying, My little daughter lieth at the point of death, and I pray thee come and lay thy hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live." And if I could use for a subject today, I would like to use for a subject, a man of few words. A man of few words. And in our day's society, we oftentimes see, or at one point, it was more common to see a lot of videos, and the videos were being made by women, and they were being vocal for whatever fight or cause that they were, standing up for. They were doing a lot of videos, and at one point in time, you used to see a lot of women doing videos and, telling their side of things and, whatever they was doing. And personally, I applaud some of that. And I have even done it myself in my own way. But while I can relate to some of that, it does not mean that that is the right way that everyone should or must do it. And one of the challenges, different people have different ways of doing things. And sometimes when we see that one person has had success at doing it, sometimes we try to pick up the same things and we try to pick up the same habits. It's almost like we're mimicking them. We have not sought God for direction and or instructions, but because it worked for them, then, we think that, we can just do it too. Let's just say, for instance, if somebody is cutting hair or whatever, and we see that they have a nice car or a nice house and, they dress really well, then all of a sudden we think that we should be cutting hair. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Like, you got those people in your life that, or just say, for instance, God, gave you something to do, and now you see a lot of other people mimicking what you do because it looks like, from their point of view, it looks like from their view that what God has given you to do is producing something for them that they want in their life. And, before you know it, it's almost like what you do is now trending. And so nevertheless, with having said that, everybody does not do things, and God has not designed everybody to do everything the same way. And on a personal note, earlier on in my marriage, I struggled. One of the biggest struggle areas for me in my marriage was the way I did things versus the way that my husband does things. And we had a situation earlier on in our marriage where I felt like he should have handled it a certain way. I felt like he should have been more vocal about the way that he handled that situation. And to be quite honest with you, I did not like the way that he handled it. And I let him know how I felt about it for some days. I want y'all to catch what Pastor Fran said. I let him know how I felt about it for some days. We didn't just have one conversation about it. I had to have multiple conversations about it. And the more I talked about it, I'm going to just be honest with you, the more I got frustrated within myself. But as I grew and I learned, and as time went by, I had a chance to reflect. I want y'all to catch what Pastor Fran is saying. As time went by, I had a chance to reflect on the situation outside of how I felt. Woo. Pastor Fran just threw you something. Did y'all catch it? I had time to reflect on how I felt, how I was dealing with it outside of how I felt. Put it like that. And one of the best things that you could ever do for yourself is process the situation outside of your feelings. Yeah, for those of you who are taking notes, get that. process it outside of your feelings. Your calm can save you from paying the high cost that results from chaotic choices. Pastor Fran gonna say that again. Your calm can save you from paying the high cost that results from chaotic choices. Because anytime you're processing something in your feelings, most likely you're going to make a choice in your feelings. You're going to make a decision about it in your feelings. But if you could ever take time to step back from how you feel, it can keep you from paying a higher cost. Now, since that time, I have apologized. I've learned from it. And I've done my best to take corrective actions since that time. But also in my calm, I realized too that I was not struggling because he didn't do anything. The real struggle came in because I didn't like the way that he handled it. See, because Pastor Fran is very vocal. If I feel something, or if I need to convey something to you and or communicate something to you, I am going to do that. Can I get any of my family members that know me to throw up some hands and just, oh, not too many of y'all. Slow down now. That's a bit much. Slow down, slow down. That's a lot of y'all throwing up hands. But nevertheless, hey, wait, who is that? Is that first man? Oh my goodness. But nevertheless, don't y'all be laughing at him today. But nevertheless, I want y'all to catch this. I wasn't struggling with the fact that he didn't do anything. But it took me having to get calm and to get out of my feelings to realize what I was really struggling with. I had the problem that he didn't handle it the way that I handled it. I would have expressed it much differently than he did. Matter of fact, he didn't even say nothing. He didn't say nothing about it. But in that situation, he chose what was best. He chose to be a man of few words. And I remember as we talked about it later on, when I wasn't in my feelings and I wasn't up in the air about it and getting on his nerves and not giving him the chance to talk about it and really get out what he wanted to say, because I was really trying to find out, watch this, if we're not careful, we have a deeper root of something that we're unaware of. Because in my way of trying to communicate it to him, what I was really saying was, I have a problem that you didn't do it like me. I wasn't even giving him the space to be himself. And I remember in my calm, and when I got myself together and I was able to be approachable. Y'all catch that? I was able to be approachable. He said, babe, he said, don't y'all think he always good now, okay? He is most of the time. But watch this. He came to me and he said, babe, he said, I didn't do it that way because I understood who and what I was dealing with. Oh my God. And he said, had I handled it your way, it only would have made the situation worse. It would have prolonged us getting the results that we were really looking for. That day he chose to be a man of few words. And I will be very honest with you. The way he handled things that day, we've never been bothered with it again. Come on. Y'all stay with Pastor Frank because I'm going to go somewhere with it. We've never been bothered with it again. Because he didn't say a lot. And he said, if I say something, I'm only going to feed in to what they want. He said they thrive in situations like that. I was about to help them thrive, okay? He said, no, 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 not now. But not only is my husband a man of few words, there are a lot of other men that are men and fathers who sit back and they process stuff silently. They process the hurt. They process the pain. They process the disappointment silently. They don't do things the way that we do it. We got our girls group, we got our diaries, we got our journals. Come on here. We got all different kind of other things that we do. But a lot of times men, they process stuff differently. And if we're not careful, we will be mad and upset with them because they don't process stuff the way that we do. As women, sometimes we like to talk it out. But as for them, they said, I know it's not a good time to talk to her. And we thinking that they trying to avoid us. Sometimes they just trying to keep the peace. Come on. Oh my God. Sometimes we think they don't care. They really are saying, I'm trying to process this just like you are. I don't know what to do either. And in our text is going to address a man who was a man of few words. And this man, his name was Jairus, and he's very skilled at talking. He handles the spiritual and the business affairs of the church. But wait a minute now, I want y'all to understand something, because Pastor Fran about to throw y'all a nugget out there. Now, being skilled at talking is not limited to your vocabulary, because sometimes there are people, they have a very wide array, they have a very large range of vocabulary. But watch this, when you only know words, that's called learned vocabulary. Y'all catch that now, because Pastor Frank gonna come back with something else. Because we're talking about Jairus. Jairus was the leader of the synagogue, which would be equivalent to a modern day pastor. He handled the spiritual affairs and the business affairs. So he had to learn and he had to know how to talk and how to communicate to people. But watch this. Remember what I just said. But when you only know words or you know to talk, that's called learned vocabulary. That's not the same as being skilled. I want y'all to catch that. Because sometimes we don't know the difference between someone who is skilled at vocabulary and someone who has learned a lot of vocabulary. Y'all catch that? Oftentimes we don't know the difference between someone who is skilled at vocabulary and when someone has just learned vocabulary. What you talking about, Pastor Fran? Because again, when you only know words, that's learned vocabulary. But when you know how to use those words, that's called skilled vocabulary. That means you know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. Woo. Some people have a lot of words, but they're not skilled. Oh God, did y'all just catch that? Some people have a lot of words, they have a lot of conversation, but they're not skilled because they don't know when to cut it off. But when you are skilled, you strategically know when to say it and how to say it and what needs to be said. That's a skill. Anytime you know how to use something. My sister is a skilled braider. She just don't braid. She is skilled. She knows how to put what part where and make it look the way it's supposed to look. She's skilled at what she does. I see some of her clients waving their hands, but she's skilled at what she does. She knows how to put what where. My brother is skilled at making lemon pepper chicken wings. He knows when, and cheese. He knows where to put a lot of cheese, but he's skilled at that. We got to work on that skill a little bit because look, my husband's like, yes, he's skilled at that. But Again, he knows where and how to put the right amount of lemon pepper sauce to make the wings taste a certain kind of way. There are some people that are skilled at something, and then there's others that's just out there rolling the dice on something, hoping that it's going to land on the right thing. But watch this. Catch this. And too many times, if we're not careful, we are impressed by people who have learned vocabulary, but they're not skilled. I want y'all to listen at that, because it's going to change the way you hear people. Because sometimes we're listening at people and we're thinking that they are so educated and they're so this and they're so that, but they don't know when to stop talking. They don't know when enough is enough. They're learned, but they're not skilled. And we have a tendency, y'all catch this, we have a tendency to fall for people who have good word game, but no performance stats. Oh God, did y'all just catch that? We fall for people who have good word game, but no performance stats. Because their mouth said something, but every now and then you need to tell them to pull that performance sheet out. Don't y'all got them at work where they give y'all those evaluation things where they tell you what you've done and stuff? That they said, I've been watching your performance. I want to know, is there anybody that's been watching the performance? I hear what you're saying, but I'm also watching your performance. Yeah, that sounds good, but I'm watching your performance. And when we get tricked by, watch this, word game, you will fall for people who are saying the right thing, but they can't do the right thing. Huh? They know how to say the right thing, but they can't do the right thing. So in other words, they got word game, but no performance stats. I want somebody to write that down and put that on your socials today. They got word game, but no performance stats. And when you start to look at both of them, you won't be so easily fooled by who's who and who's not. Oh my God. Watch this. If we be honest about it, we have been more disappointed by people not being who they said because they told us they were somebody else. They told me that they were the love of my life. They told me that they were going to support me. They told me that they were going to be there for me and never leave me. And that they understood where I wanted to go at in life, and they were going to support me. But then when it came down to them performing, come on here, when I checked off everything, I just realized they had word game. They got word game. They got word game. They got word game. There should always be a balance between the word game and the performance stats. So you got to be looking, you got to be listening for one, but you got to be looking for the other. Come on. This is why sometimes you will leave the man that is doing the right thing for the one who is only going to say the right thing. Oh God. Sometimes you will leave the man who is doing the right thing for the man that is saying the right thing, only to get over there and now you find yourself crying every night, every day, because you found out that you left. Watch this, because you found out that you gave up being the one to be one of many. Huh? Now you crying every day because you found out he told you that you was the only one. You was for that moment. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. About being a man of few words. But this is why we got to be careful. Because sometimes, even though they not saying much, it don't mean that they not performing much. Oh God. My husband is not a big talker for the most part. But let me tell you something. He performs well in life. Come on. He might not always say the right things to me. But I can stand here flat-footed, 10 toes down, and tell you, even though he might not say the right things to me all the time, he does right by me most of the time. When I check his performance stats off, yes, check, 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 check. No, he ain't got to be a Shamar Moore. He ain't got to be a Denzel, and he ain't got to be some of them other people. All he has to do is just be himself. Just keep being the man of few words, because your performance sheet is good with me, baby. No, I don't need you in a size 36 or 29 or nothing. No, do what makes you happy. But also do what keeps you here with me a little bit longer, too. Because your performance sheet is good. Well, he don't tell me he love me. He don't tell me that he show me every day. Come on here. Because like I said, sometimes we get caught up for word game, but we ain't check. Sometimes what you got to do as a woman, you got to check, you got to be balanced. You got to be balanced. You got to really check the performance sheet off. You got to really have those talk within yourself. Do they do this? Do they do that? Do they do? Yep. Now, did he say it? And most men don't communicate with words. They communicate with actions. Come on. We got to know the difference. Because oftentimes we're thinking that the man is going to be like us, and he's going to be all emotional, and he's going to just, oh, baby, I just love you. Oh, you are the best thing that ever happened to me, and I just want you every single day. No, most of the time, if they coming home every day, and if they are taking care of that house, and they making sure that you good, that's their way of saying, I love coming home to you. If they don't never open their mouth, you better do the performance check. You better do the performance check. Because remember, one of the best things that you could ever do is process things outside of how you feel. But Jairus has a 12-year-old daughter. He has a 12-year-old daughter. Pastor Fran got to hurry up now. Jairus has a 12-year-old daughter. She is critically ill. And Jairus finds it necessary to go to Jesus. Sometimes it's not another her that he is talking to. Sometimes it's just God. Oh, God. Because Jairus got a situation. And when you got a man that's not a big talker, he ain't going to come to you all the time and say this and say that and say this and say that. You got to watch what he does, because Jairus finds himself in a very peculiar situation. And Jairus finds it necessary to go to God with his situation. Y'all stay with Pastor Friend on this, because I'm going to show you something about Jairus, and hopefully show you something about, a man or your man that maybe sometimes we overlook, because we're looking for them to do it the way that we want them to do it, or the way we think it should be done, not letting them be their self and being open enough to learn their language of love. Because I want it my way when I want it and how I want it. If I don't get it, I'm going to make sure that you're not comfortable. Watch this. Now we're getting ready to see what Pastor Fran was talking about, Jairus' skill communications. Because Jairus is now, keep in mind, Jairus' daughter is critically ill. She's critically ill. But Jairus finds it necessary to get into the presence of Jesus. But if we look at our text tells us that when even Jairus got in front of Jesus, he was skilled at his vocabulary, because he did not start out by telling Jesus what was wrong with his daughter. He got down and worshiped Jesus. Oh, God. I want y'all to catch that now. Jairus has a situation. But even when he gets in the presence of Jesus, he does not come off and just start saying, God, you know, my daughter is sick and Jesus, I just need for you to heal her. I just need for you to come to the house and lay your hands on her. All of that. No, he didn't even say that. The first thing he did was he was skilled at his vocabulary, because watch this. He knew that, watch this was not a time to be word impressive. It was a time to be worship effective. Oh, y'all catch that, what Pastor Fran just said. Jairus understood that this was not a time to be word effective. He said, not time to be word impressive, excuse me. He said, it's now time to be worship effective. I'm not concerned about impressing God or impressing Jesus with my words. And sometimes we're trying to talk a blessing down. But watch this. When you ever make up in your mind that I'm going to worship my blessing into existence, I know I got this problem going on. I know I got this situation going on, but I come to prioritize God over everything else. Over my loneliness, over my heartache, over my frustration, over my pain, over my disappointment, over my finances, over my job. I just come to tell him thank you. I'm not even coming with my list. I'm not coming with word game, because I know that word game is not effective, but I do know that worship is. Whew. And so many times we get caught up with going to God and we're just dumping everything on God. And watch this. We'll say thank him. We'll say thank you, Lord. But then we go straight into what we need and what we want. Come on. Anybody else besides Pastor Fran being guilty of that before? Lord, thank you. Well, you know, these bills is due, and then you know that this happened, and then you know they said I got this, and they said I got that, and they said that I need this, and they said that this was going to happen, and that was going to happen, and God is like, oh my God, what happened to the thank you? And I want you to understand something, because oftentimes we have been told, y'all catch this, oftentimes we have been told, in order to worship, you got to forget about your problems. Anybody ever heard that before? In order to worship, you got to just forget about your problems. Just forget about your problems. Watch this. Jairus is about to show us something. Jairus is about to show us something. I'm going to read it for you. And behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet and besought him. So the first thing that Jairus did was worship. He started telling God, thank you. He said, God, thank you. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for you being God. Thank you for having all this power. Thank you for just being the God that you are. Thank you for being a savior. Thank you for being a healer. Thank you for being a deliverer. I don't know exactly what words he said, but the Bible does tell us that the first thing that he did was he fell down. That means he started to worship God, Jesus. But watch this. Now I'm going to show you that even though he worshiped, he did not forget about his issue. Real worship doesn't mean that you forget about your issue. Real worship means that you are skilled at prioritizing your issue. Oh my God, are y'all seeing this? Because it said that Jairus fell down and worshiped, and after he worshiped, then he opened up his mouth and he began to tell God what was really wrong. But oftentimes we go in and we have not worshiped and we're telling God what's wrong, hoping that he will fix it, but we have not even prioritized him over what's wrong. Are we seeing this? So I don't ever want you to think that you got to forget about your problems, because sometimes that is humanly impossible. Oh my God. It's hard for me to forget about my son when I'm praying for him. It's hard for me to forget about my daughter when she got surgery this week. But I still got to tell God, thank you. I'm not forgetting about the fact of what she got to go through, but I got to prioritize the one who I know who's going to bring her out of what she got to go through. Oh God. So I'm not going to forget about that. I'm not going to forget about that. But I am, watch this. My responsibility is not to forget about it. My responsibility is to prioritize it. Are y'all seeing that? Because in verse 22, it says that Jairus fell down and worshiped. He knew this was not a time to come with a word game. He wasn't trying to impress Jesus with his words. He said, but let me give him some worship. I put him over my daughter and her critical situation because this little girl was at the point of death. If Jesus did not do this, nobody else could do this. Anybody got any things that only God can do? And I've just been going in every day. God, this is this. And oh, God, this is that. And I need for you to do this. But Jairus here, he's showing us that he is skilled. And that is what I am trying to actually deposit into the body of Christ, especially Life Meets the Word on today. Jesus is not impressed by the words. But your worship sure can move him. And I'm going to speed up a little bit because as Jairus began to worship, have you ever worshiped and then when you came out, it seemed like something just got in the way? Because Jairus worshiped and he got Jesus' attention. And Jesus starts to move with Jairus. Watch this. As he worshiped. And now Jesus is going with him to his house. And Jesus is answering and moving in the direction where Jairus can see that Jesus said, okay, I'm going with you. I'm with you. Because sometimes we get in situations like that. We prayed, we worship, and then we can start to see a glimpse of what God is doing. And then boom, something happens. Because now here comes the woman with the issue of blood. Oh God. It seems like something just got in the way. But watch what Jairus did. As he stood there and he watched this other woman get healed. I'm sure he was thinking, what about my daughter? 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 But if you look at the text never said that Jairus said another thing. Huh? When you know that you have prioritized God over everything else, I don't care what happens in between. Now you need to let your skill kick in and make sure that there's nothing coming out of your mouth that's going to cancel, oh God, what you were believing God for. I'm sure as Jairus stood there wondering, is it too late? He even got the news, he even got the news that it wasn't any need for Jesus to come. Jesus turns around and he responds to Jairus. And he tells Jairus, just believe. Just believe. Just believe. You don't have to try to give God word, to impress God with your words. Because you can best believe that he is looking at what you do.